If you watched my last video about asking ChatGPT to write me a research paper, you know it wouldn't, but today we want to talk about how we can pass OpenAI guidelines and make it write one anyway. But if you haven't watched that video, go watch that first. AI generative models like ChatGPT and all the other text generative programs come with some inherent limitations, the first and foremost being the accuracy. These models cannot guarantee the accuracy of the text that they generate because they are not scraping the web for you and finding the most relevant information for you. They don't have any understanding of the text that they are generating. They are just trained on very large language data, and they are just putting together words that they think go well together. As incredible as they sound, there are no guarantees that any text generated by an AI model will be accurate. In fact, the most recent example of this was a user found that Bing's OpenAI integration actually is giving him some really disturbing search results. For example, when the user asked about the Avatar movie, the discussion led to a debate between the human user and the chatbot, where the chatbot actually insists that it's the year 2022, and when the user tries to correct the chatbot gets pretty pissed and even says things like, "You have not been a good user, I have been a good Bing." And while ChatGPT is not as dramatic as Bing's version of their chatbot, it still generates incredibly inaccurate information at some point. Another limitation of ChatGPT is the inaccurate referencing. Since this is a generative model, so inherently it's generating text rather than finding good exact existing references. As a personal experiment, I asked it to generate some scientific research, scientific literature review on a certain topic related to my Ph.D. research as an experiment, and then asked it to cite all the references in an IEEE style citation format. And when I went through the references, although they looked very real, some of the names even sounded familiar to the researchers that I know in my field, and some of the titles of those research papers sounded so very real to me that for a second I thought these are real references from real people, but no. When I went ahead and searched for them on Google Scholar, on IEEE Explore, and on other sources that it had cited, lo and behold, they weren't real. The AI just put together some random titles with some names of some existing people it mixed up the first and last names from some people in my field and just randomly put them together to make it sound like a coherent, real reference from a real person. And even if I could, there would still be a third limitation, which is actually conducting research. Research inherently requires some skills that these AI-generated models simply do not have. For example, interpreting some experiment results, interpreting some graphs that you are seeing in your research, your data analysis, and drawing conclusions from the findings that you have out of your experiments. So not all aspects of your research can be taken over by an AI. And there are multiple levels of skepticism on this. There is a plagiarism aspect, and then there is also the responsibility aspect. I'm less concerned about the plagiarism aspect since the probability of that is quite low, and that can happen in humans as well, like since our subconscious still has snippets from all the research that we have studied, we have conducted in the past while conducting the literature reviews. So snippets of text can appear even in a human-generated text, human-generated research. So plagiarism is only one aspect. The other aspect is the responsibility. If a human conducts a research and puts their name on a paper, they take responsibility for the part they played in conducting that particular research. The same cannot be said about an AI, and this is one of the biggest concerns right now in listing AI as a co-author. An AI chatbot cannot take responsibility for the text that they have written and the accuracy of those results, or for drawing the conclusions they wrote as an AI chatbot. As a human, you take responsibility for what you write, you take responsibility for the research you conduct, and you take responsibility for drawing any conclusions you do from your research findings, whereas an AI cannot. And that is why multiple news sources will show you how many journals have now banned the use of ChatGPT in research publications. So does that mean academic community, academic research, academic writing has no place for tools like ChatGPT? And as a researcher, you should stay as far away as possible from tools like ChatGPT for writing research papers, which is certainly what I have been doing when it comes to my actual PhD research? The answer is yes and no, not quite. While the laws and guidelines and policies around AI-generated text in scientific publications are still unclear, and it's a constantly shifting landscape and they will keep changing from time to time and from journal publication to journal publication, I do think there are moral and ethical ways to use ChatGPT in academic research and in scientific research. Here are top 3 things that I think you can do to improve your use of ChatGPT if you're using it for academic research. Number 1. Use multiple sources to verify the information. While AI-generated text can be inaccurate, as a human, as a researcher, you should always verify what it has generated. It can generate text for you. It's your responsibility to verify whether or not it is accurate, because in the end, you're the one who's going to be putting your name over it, and if it's an inaccurate information, it's a failure on your part as a researcher that you failed to verify any information over which later you're putting your name on. Number 2. Prompt engineering. It's a way broader topic than I can cover in this video. Besides, my friend Goda actually made an excellent video about prompt engineering. I will leave it somewhere up there. You can check that out about what prompt engineering is and how you can learn it to give intelligent, accurate, precise prompts for it to generate accurate results and accurate text for you. So don't forget to watch that video afterwards if you're interested in learning what prompt engineering is and how to use it. And finally, number 3. Use ChatGPT as a tool, not as a replacement. What do I mean by it? Well, can anyone conduct my PhD research and write my research paper that I just wrote using ChatGPT? No, definitely not. But can I use ChatGPT to do the same research and write it much more effectively and much more efficiently and way faster? Yes, for sure I can. So you still need the skills and the backgrounds as a researcher that are essential to your research. For example, you still need to know how to code, you still need to know how to cite scientific research, how to conduct the research, how to do the experiments, how to do all those things that you already do as a researcher, but they can be made much more efficient by using AI tools like ChatGPT. It can help you make the process way faster. So here's my entire framework for how ChatGPT can help you write quality research papers in a faster manner and improve your chances of getting accepted in reputable journals. Step 1. Ask it to generate 20 research paper ideas or titles for you in the field of your research. Then, as a researcher, narrow it down to top 3 ideas. You still need to use your knowledge, your background as a researcher to sort through them to find what are the literature gaps, what will work, what's an important application, what is not an important application. So sort through those title ideas and narrow it down to 3. After that, iterate over them until you find one winner, one candidate for what you actually want to use as your foundation for conducting your research. Step 2. Ask it to design a research experiment for you. Now, it will depend from field to field, what kind of field you are working in, what kind of researcher are you. So if it's a survey, go conduct that survey and find those data, find those results, store them in databases and draw your conclusions and all that. If it's a coding experiment, ask it to maybe give you an outline for the code, what kind of code you should be writing for it, and then fill those holes by yourself, because obviously it cannot write an entire PhD research project code. So it can give you an outline, it can give you a blueprint to get started, and then write that code by yourself, conduct those experiments by yourself, fill those gaps. It can help you improve your results by suggesting what kind of plots you should be making. So use it as a tool, as an accessory, just like an advanced version of Grammarly or autocomplete or better coding tools. It's still your job as a researcher to conduct the research. This is just a tool for you. Consider it an extension of your arm, perhaps. Step number 3. Interpret your findings. Draw your conclusions. Draw your summaries. Write bullet point summaries of what you think your findings actually mean. It doesn't have to be in an exact scientific journal publication manner. You can just write shorthand bullet point summaries for it of what you think your results mean. And then I think it's totally okay. This is my personal opinion, by the way, so don't take my word on it. But I think it's okay if you are using an AI tool to make you more eloquent, I think it's absolutely okay if you are using it to convey your ideas in just better words. So you give intelligent prompts, you mention exactly and specifically what do you want it to write. If you have drawn a certain conclusion and you have written it in a bullet point summary, I think it's absolutely okay if you give that bullet point summary to it and ask it to change it into a conclusion for a scientific research paper, or change it into a discussion section for a scientific research paper. So use it as a tool, not as a replacement of yourself as a researcher. And finally, step number 5, use prompt engineering. If you're watching this video in future and now journals do accept the use of AI tools like ChatGPT and allow publications using them, then use intelligent prompt engineering to let it help you write your research paper way faster and in way more efficient manner. Now, does this make ChatGPT a co-author in your paper? While I do understand the reasons of people who listed it as co-author, I don't think so, because authorship is not just about the writing part of the paper. The authorship essentially means helped conduct the research. It doesn't just mean who typed it onto the paper. So it has to be an actual scientific contribution. In order for anyone to be a co-author in your paper, they have to be able to take responsibility for the part they played in that work as a scientific researcher. So no, I don't think ChatGPT qualifies as being listed as a co-author. It's merely an advanced version of Grammarly and autocomplete and some automatic writing and interpretation of your findings. But the reasons of people who listed it as a co-author in their paper are not that absurd. For example, when asked why they decided to list ChatGPT as a co-author on their paper, one of the researchers actually said this.
The reason why we listed it as an author was because we believe it actually contributed intellectually to the content of the paper and not just as a subject for its evaluation.
But they do acknowledge that ChatGPT doesn't provide the scientific rigor in the sense that other researchers do. But still, here's how they defended listing ChatGPT as a co-author. So let me know if you agree or disagree with that in the comments. By the way, if you are a student and you're thinking about using ChatGPT to just rack up some publications and get admission in MS or PhD, you don't need to do that. Watch that video next where I tell you how you can show your research potential in your CV without any publications, and I'll see you there.